Well. Dallas Cowboy fans, there is not a lot of news out there right now about our Dallas Cowboys. Now, I mean, we are the Dallas Cowboys. There will always be news. But some of the news is kind of like stuff that people are making up, and I don't know if it's necessarily news. But I have found something to be very interesting, a very interesting story as it pertains to Jonathan Mingo. A lot of us, we've been wondering about, what is Mingo going to be ever since the Dallas Cowboys gave up a 4th-round pick for him. And a lot of us thought last year when he came in, kind of like mid-season, we were like, wow, Jonathan Mingo is going to make a difference. And he didn't necessarily make the difference, but I don't blame it on Jonathan Mingo. This story right here, I think it kind of solidifies some things about Jonathan Mingo. And it may make you feel better about Mingo, or maybe it won't. But I want Dallas Cowboy fans to hear what Adam Thielen had to say about Jonathan Mingo. Let's talk Cowboys. We're about to talk facts. Welcome, Cowboy fans and Cowboy haters alike. I'm the G, and I'm the host of Let's Talk Cowboys, where we talk facts. And if you like this video, don't forget at the end to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know the next time we post another video or go live. And if you haven't become a channel member or subscriber yet, please do. We have a lot of great things coming in the future. Now let's talk facts. Jonathan Mingo. I am telling you, as it pertains to Jonathan Mingo, we were so excited last year, and I think some of that excitement may have been out of desperation because we knew the Cowboys needed another wide receiver, and not just another wide receiver. The Cowboys needed a number 2 wide receiver to go along with CeeDee Lamb. And it seems like Jalen Tolbert didn't step up to the plate. And then even when we got Jonathan Mingo, Mike McCarthy just couldn't seem to work him in. And then when he did try to work him in, Cooper Rush couldn't get the ball to him. And we don't really know what Jonathan Mingo is. And as a matter of fact, because Dak Prescott went out in that Atlanta Falcons game, I don't even think we know fully yet what Jalen Tolbert is. But I will say this, from everything I've been seeing and everything I've been hearing from camp, it seems like Jalen Tolbert may have taken another step. And I don't think that means that Jonathan Mingo took a step back. I just think it may mean that Jalen Tolbert took another step. And so what I think is going to happen in training camp this year is, rather than Jonathan Mingo battling Jalen Tolbert for the number 3 wide receiver spot, I think we may be watching Jonathan Mingo battle Ryan Flanoy for the number 4 wide receiver spot. But let's look at a story I found, and I think it's very interesting as Adam Thielen is talking about Jonathan Mingo, and this article talks about Jonathan Mingo and where his place may be on the Cowboys. I've never even heard of this website. It's called Cat Crave, so it's obviously something to do with the Carolina Panthers. So over here on a website called Cat Crave, so that kind of leads me to believe it's something to do with the Carolina Panthers. Adam Thielen has some things to say about Jonathan Mingo that I found to be very interesting. Check this out. Adam Thielen says, in this story by Dean Jones, it says, Adam Thielen says what all Panthers fans already knew about Jonathan Mingo. It's the same old story. Says here, Adam Thielen has become an exceptional role model for the Carolina Panthers group of young wide receivers. Unfortunately, his advice and guidance didn't do much to help Jonathan Mingo along the way. Mingo is someone else's problem now. That didn't stop Thielen from throwing his support behind the 3rd-year receiver. Now, this article kind of has me wondering, Mingo being under Thielen, and he didn't make a step in Carolina, it makes me wonder, will he make a step in Dallas? But again, let's continue to read this article. It's got some more interesting stuff to say. Says the Panthers gave up on Mingo and nobody grumbled. He got countless opportunities to shine and never capitalized on any of them. This story sounds a little bit different coming from the Carolina perspective versus some of the things that we've heard. It says Dan Morgan saw enough before the 2024 trade deadline, shipping him to the Dallas Cowboys for a package that included a 4th-round selection. Now, I do believe the Cowboys gave up too much for Jonathan Mingo. I said it when they did it. The Cowboys probably could have got Jonathan Mingo for a 6th. I don't think they had to give up a 4th. But I just wonder if the Cowboys giving up a fourth, which it seems the Cowboys hate fourth-round draft picks. I mean, they gave up one for Trey Lance, who has now went to the Chargers, and he's struggling over there too. So it just makes me wonder sometimes if they just don't like fourth-round draft picks. I think they could have gave up less for him, but nevertheless, I mean, this is kind of telling, seeing this from this perspective, the Cowboys saying they had a number 2 grade on him, but maybe it's a little bit more to it. Maybe he just couldn't do what was needed in Carolina to get up the depth chart. But again, Carolina got some problems. We know it. But watch this part. This is the other part. It says, Adam Thielen sees potential in Carolina Panthers draft bust Jonathan Mingo. It says, this was a fresh start for Mingo, but he was barely utilized by the Cowboys following the trade. That has to do with McCarthy and the fact that Dak Prescott was hurt and the fact that Cooper Rush couldn't throw past 10 yards. It says Dallas acquired George Pickens from the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason. That plunges the former second-round pick out of Ole Miss further down the pecking order. But Thielen thinks the potential is there to improve despite his precarious status. Now, I'm going to tell you something when people start using the word potential. Potential is a very dangerous word. It can be a good word, but it's also a dangerous word. Glass half empty, glass half full. So the question becomes about Jonathan Mingo. Is the glass half empty or is the glass half full? Because when I hear somebody talking about potential, especially when you're talking about Mingo, are we saying unachieved success or are we saying future success? And when I think about unachieved success says that someone has the talent, someone has the tools, but they just don't have everything or whatever it is that they need to really push them to make that next step. And so that becomes the question with Mingo. And so, it goes on to say some other things about Mingo that I think is very interesting. Thielen does. It says next, I'd say the last 2 years gone through a lot of adversity, a lot of different coaches, different offenses, a lot going on. I will say, I think he's got a lot of potential. I'm telling you, I'm always worried when I hear people start talking about potential. You don't say stuff like that about a guy like George Pickens. You don't say George Pickens has potential. No, you say George Pickens is an absolute dog. You don't say stuff like that about CeeDee Lamb. You don't say that about guys who are just, they got it. You don't say those things. You start saying these types of things that follow. Watch this. He's a great kid, hard worker, great locker room guy. He's going to do all the right things. I always believe in versatility. If you can play the different positions and you can do a lot of the different things, not just be a one-trick pony per se, I think it gives you a great opportunity to have success in this league, and I think he's one of those guys. I'm always worried when I hear these types of things. Why? Because you don't say that about guys who are just guys who are doing it. You just don't say these types of things. And so the question that will be answered, I believe, in this year's training camp is this glass half empty or half full? And this is why they're saying this about him. Same old story. You hear these stories about guys who never achieve success. It says, look, if this sounds familiar, that's because it is. The word potential has been constantly associated with Mingo since he entered the league in 2023. I'm telling you. It's a dangerous word, man. It's a dangerous word when you're talking about a player like Mingo. Panthers fans were promised that things would eventually click for the wideout. He just needed more confidence, but these bold claims were never backed up. And one of the things about Mingo I think you have to be very careful of. Mingo is a very big wide receiver. And so when you first see him, you like, wow, this dude gonna be this, that, and the other. Man, if there's something that this league has taught me for years, it's not how big you are per se, but it's about what you have in here. Because Kevontae Turpin is one of the smallest wide receivers in the league. If you went to 31 other teams and asked them, would they take Kevontae Turpin or Jonathan Mingo? I'm telling you, man, I'm telling you, Kevontae Turpin, small dude, big heart though. Small dude, big heart, a lot of speed, very tough. Very, very tough. No, he doesn't have potential. He's an absolute dog. Jonathan Mingo. Not hearing. George Pickens, we heard he wasn't a locker room guy. We heard bad attitude. We heard off the field. We heard. Just think about all the things we heard. But the one thing nobody could deny, he's a dog on the field. Couldn't deny it. Jonathan Mingo, I'm worried. Because we're not hearing this type of stuff. We keep hearing potential. I don't want to hear potential when I'm talking about one of my wide receivers. I don't want to hear potential. I want to hear he's a dog. It says here, what comes next for Mingo is uncertain. He looks firmly cemented behind CeeDee Lamb, Pickens, and Jalen Tolbert. I believe so too. I believe Tolbert is going to be the third wide receiver. Jonathan Mingo is really battling Ryan Flournoy. That's who he's battling. And I think Ryan Flournoy has some dog in him. He's battling Ryan Flournoy for the number 4 spot. I think Ryan Flournoy is really going to battle him for some more playing time on the field. But I do think Jalen Tolbert is solidified as the Cowboys' number 3 wide receiver on that depth chart. I think that Mingo may push him. I think Flournoy may push him. But I think we are really kind of underestimating Tolbert. I think because our expectations were so high in a season that was riddled with injuries and lame duck coaches and just bad schemes and all kinds of things. For all intents and purposes, I think Jalen Tolbert, man, if we really kind of get rid of some of our biases, we really come to the conclusion that, yeah, Tolbert is really better than what we think he is. And the numbers that Jalen Tolbert put up last year, those are top 5 third wide receiver numbers. And I believe if Dak Prescott don't get hurt, Jalen Tolbert may have taken a step that would have blew our minds. I believe Jalen Tolbert probably would have been a 1,000-yard receiver. But again, says right here, the number 4 option could be attainable objective for the Brandon High School product. The season, every chance is key. Anything less comes with serious consequences attached. Yes, for sure. For sure. Appreciate what Adam Thielen had to say about one Jonathan Mingo. But again, I'm telling us, Jonathan Mingo, as much as some of us hoped that Jonathan Mingo was going to be this, that, and the other, and I still think he could be a good wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. But again, I don't think he's battling Jalen Tolbert anymore. I think Jalen Tolbert is taking a step. He's going to take another step. And I think Jalen Tolbert, by the end of this season, Jalen Tolbert may play his way out of Dallas. Because if you look at the numbers that Jalen Tolbert put up, third wide receiver production. He's in top 5. He's in top 5 category as a third wide receiver. And the fact that last year he was going up against 1s and 2s, and now he's going to be going up against 3s. I'm telling you, Jalen Tolbert may have a season that no one anticipated. And he may very well turn out to be an X factor for the Cowboys, especially with some of the teams we're going to be playing this year and with some of the coverages they're probably going to try to put on Pickens and CeeDee, which is going to be very difficult for a lot of teams. But boy, once you put Tolbert, Turpin, Jaden Blue, all that on the field at the same time, man, it's going to be absolutely awesome, and I am here for it. But again, Jonathan Mingo, potential. But I don't know if it's going to be realized. Y'all tell me what you think. I really appreciate what, I'm telling you, Adam Thielen really put some things into perspective for me. And this particular website, Cat Craves, They gave us a different perspective. I always like looking at these sites from other teams because they give us a different perspective, because sometimes, every time somebody comes to Dallas, we always want them to be this, that, and the other. We think they're going to be this, that, and a bag of chips. When if you go and start reading what the team they came from said about them, you get a different perspective. You really, really get a different perspective. Because I'm telling you, this is totally different than what I saw with Sanborn. Boy, what those local beat writers wrote about Sanborn, a lot of them were furious. They were furious Chicago let this man go and didn't put like a third-round tender on him. I mean, they were furious. So it's always good to hear what these other sites say about these players. But again, y'all tell me what y'all think about this. I just thought this was like very interesting as it applies to Jonathan Mingo, because I think it may turn out to be true. But again, y'all tell me what y'all think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. DC4L. God bless. Until the next time, let's talk Cowboys, where we talk facts. Peace.